Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adventure Seeker Sarah Show. You may have noticed that there's no intro, and that's because my computer is being highly problematic, but that's okay. We're here anyways, and we'll get that computer running. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you know this is me broadcasting from my studio in my house. So that is 2 weeks in a row from the same place. So mark this on your calendars. That is not likely to happen often. And I certainly know I won't be anywhere near here next week, but it did happen. So now we know that that's a possibility. I can, in fact, be in the same place 2 weeks in a row on a Friday. Won't happen much, but it does happen. So this week, it's going to be a short show because I am talking about birthdays. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's Adam's birthday. So if you hear any noise in the background, that's just because we have people here having fun for birthday things. But I would like to talk to you about how I like to celebrate birthdays. So gifts are great and stuff is fine, but I'm sure you may have guessed that I really value experiences, like a lot. That's most of what I do, right? So experiences are important to me, but I also use them as a way to show my love and appreciation for other people. So gifts are great, and I do love gift giving, but I really like gifting experiences. And that's generally what I do for birthdays. So I'm going to tell you first about my favorite birthday adventure. Typically for my own birthday as well, we tend to go on some sort of adventure because, you know, that's what I like to do. But the best one, I mean, there have been a lot, was Diggerland. Now, I can't remember if I've talked about Diggerland here before, but I hope that I have, because Diggerland is freaking amazing. So Diggerland is in New Jersey, and it is a theme park that is entirely construction themed. Now, we all know how much I love amusement parks, or maybe we don't, but I do. We spend a lot of time in amusement parks. And so that is kind of an important element here. But more importantly, Diggerland is weird. Like it's thematic. I mean, it's not weird. It just is weird a little bit for an amusement park. So it is an entire theme park where all of the rides are either you actually operating construction equipment, like little mini diggers and stuff, which is kind of cute, or they've modified construction equipment to be amusement rides, like big amusement rides. It's as weird as it sounds and as awesome as it sounds. And it's like literally one of my favorite places, which sounds ridiculous because I'm an adult. But we went there for my birthday a few years ago. And I swear to you, it's just the freaking best. Like, it's weird. So I like that. I like that it's a little bit weird, you know? There's a lot of uniqueness to this place, and it was part of a birthday adventure for me. This was actually on my birthday, but during that time we also went to other places in New York and New Jersey on that same trip. And often birthday excursions, either, you know, not always for my birthday, but certainly when I plan something for someone, are a bit of an event, right? Like, we're not just doing one thing, we're going out and having a full-on adventure. And that's great, right? So I'm going to talk to you today about birthdays and how we celebrate that. So I'm going to I'm back. Hi. So yesterday we started Adam's birthday adventure, which was basically a spa day. I don't know if anyone here has been to the Nordique Spa in Chelsea, Quebec, but it's fantastic. We try to go there as often as we can, which isn't very often, because I will tell you, it's like a little bit expensive. It's not hugely expensive. And if you just want to go for the thermal experience, then it's actually fairly reasonable as a relaxation experience. And that's what it is. It's an experience. It can be a full day thing. They open around 9 o'clock every morning. And when we were there on a Thursday, they didn't close until 11. We left before that. But this is definitely, it has some value, right? But we would like to first say happy birthday to Adam, because that's important, because it is his birthday today. And yesterday we went to the spa, we went to the board game store, we stopped and got some awesome poutine on Bank Street at the Great Canadian Poutineery. So if you're near Ottawa at any point, you should definitely go do that, because they have a crazy variety of poutine. But I'm going to tell you just a little bit about, this is not really what the show is about, what we're doing for Adam's birthday. We had family birthday today and friends over to play board games. We're going wrestling tomorrow. We have a few other surprises in store, but that adventure is not over yet. So I'm not going to tell you all about that. I'm going to tell you about a different adventure, but I will tell you a little bit about the Nordique Spa, just because it's pretty awesome. So this place, if you've never been, I'm going to explain it as if you've never been there. It's a really sprawling place where you can do regular spa treatments, body treatments, facials, a whole bunch of interesting things like that. But that's a separate thing that you pay for separately, which is great. But if you're just paying for the thermal experience, what that is there's a huge variety of saunas and hot tubs. And then you go from hot to cold, which around this time of year, unfortunately, is really just stepping out of the water. But there's also cold pools and cold buckets. There's different ways to do that. And then you go and relax. So they have relaxation huts. They have my favorite place that I'll tell you about in a minute. Different places that you can just go and relax and chill out. They even have these really cool little hammock cocoons that you like zip yourself into. It's so lots of interesting ways to relax there, of course, because that's kind of the whole point of the place. But my favorite, and this is not a great picture of it because you really can't get a fantastic picture of this space because it is dark, as it is supposed to be. Because what this is not just my favorite place at the Nordique Spa, but maybe my favorite place on Earth. And it's also why my hair is still like a giant salty, crumbly mess, because this is a salt pool where you just go and float. That's it. You just float in the salt. Now there's some ambiance. There's candles. There's darkness. There's music. But this might be the only place on Earth where my brain just shuts off for a while. And that's kind of awesome. So I really love this. It is an extra cost if you're going to the spa, but I would say it's more than worth it, at least for me. I need a place where my brain can just rest. So this is certainly my favorite spot in the entirety of Nordique. And there's a lot to do there. And this is definitely my favorite. Now, there's also a couple of other things that I really like. This is one of the salt tubs that is right next to the Banya sauna. So the Banya is a Russian sauna, which is my favorite one because it's the hottest. I really like the heat. And there's also a ritual that you can do there that, go look it up. It's you're basically just getting beaten with sticks, but for a good reason. Like it is a massage, sort of, but it's really cool. And it takes place in the hottest sauna there, which I kind of like. And the other thing that I don't have pictured, because it is an experience and you wouldn't go in there and film, is one of the other saunas has an Ofkus ritual, which is this, it sounds really weird when you explain it, and it is, I suppose, but it's this really cool spa experience where you have a staff member who comes in and they have like essential oil infusions in these great big snowballs, and they put it on the sauna, break them, do this towel waving dance. Like, it's really pretty awesome. And they have two right now. They have their Discovery Ofkus, which has music. It has 3 different songs that they go through while going through 3 different essential oils with all the towel waving. And of course, the towel waving makes it even hotter. So again, one of my favorite things at this place. And then they also have the Classic, which is a 15-minute long one that gets very hot. When we did it yesterday, I think over 50% of the people had dropped out by the end. Like, you can leave at any time because it does get quite hot. And that is more for quiet contemplation and getting in touch with yourself. There's no music. They still have the essential oil infusions, but it's just, you're there and you are really just trying to get in touch with yourself in the heat. So those are probably my favorite spots there. But they also have great food. They have, I think, 4 different spots where you can buy food. We usually go to the main one that's by the salt pool because we spend a lot of our time at the salt pool. And this is, we got a charcuterie board. We usually get sharing things, but they have kind of a variety. Now it is a little bit expensive, but it's because that's like, you can't exit and re-enter like that. That is your option for food. You buy food there or you don't eat, but it's delicious. So if you're going for the experience, plan to spend a little bit of money on food if you want to stay for the day. And their drinks are also awesome. Of course, there's me with beer in the middle because I can't go anywhere without beer. But we have like a white Cosmopolitan there and a lavender raspberry Collins, I think, on the other side. And again, the drinks are a tad expensive, about $14 for a cocktail, I think around $8 for a beer, but not like super expensive compared to a nice bar. And they're always delicious. Their cocktails are great, actually. They have a huge variety of cocktails that are all fantastic. So although they're a little bit more expensive than some places, just plan for that if you're going, if you want to have a few drinks or if you want to eat there, then plan for a little bit of extra money. You actually have these little bracelets that you tap while you're there, the whole time you're there, and they pre-authorize them on a credit card with $150. So just plan for that. But this is a really cool place to go. And then we also stopped at 2 other places yesterday for Adam's birthday. There's still lots more Adam's birthday to go. But we stopped at the game store in Gatineau that we love, and also at the poutineery that I mentioned. That poutineery is awesome, by the way. And they have an excellent variety of things, but also like the ambiance is really cool. There are plants everywhere. There are these like a variety of interesting industrial lights. It's very artistic and very planty, 2 things I really enjoy. But what I mostly want to talk to you about today is how to do a budget birthday in an expensive place like Toronto. Like everything that we've talked about so far is a little bit expensive. Like I had a little bit of money set aside for Adam's birthday. I was planning on taking him to Mexico, but he wanted to stay close to home. So we did some fun things that are here. But they cost money. The spa is not cheap. But you can still have a lot of really cool fun on a very low budget. So last summer, I actually wrote an article on this on A Canada Travel. So if you want more details about anything I talk about, you can go look at that. But last summer, we went to Toronto for Chris's birthday. Now, I've known Chris, and so has Adam, for literally decades. And somehow, I've never managed to spend Chris's birthday with him or do anything for his birthday, which is really odd when you think about it. But when I realized that, I was like, man, I have a lot of birthdays to make up for. So I had one thing, and we did things in Niagara. It was again a multi-day extravaganza, but we did things in Niagara, and I'm not going to tell you about those because that's a different place. But I really wanted to highlight Toronto because it's a big city. People think of it as being expensive. Not a lot of ways to get out and have fun without spending some money, but that is not true. There's a lot going on there and a lot you can do, especially if you're willing to be a little bit weird and quirky. There's a lot you can do for free. So I knew that I had one major thing that I wanted to spend a little bit of money on, which comes at the end, and I'll tell you about that. But I knew that meant that I couldn't spend much money on anything else. And I also knew that we had to stay in Toronto because the other thing that we were doing was quite late. Didn't want to drive back. And so we did stay at a very fancy hotel, the Fairmont Royal York, which is beautiful. But in order to do that, it was last minute, and I went on Price Hopper to find like a crazy good price. We stayed at this place for almost nothing. So if you're a little bit flexible in your arrangements of where you stay, you can go on sites like Price Hopper where you can find last minute deals on hotels. Like they don't have all the rooms booked, they want to, so they're going to offer them at a little bit of a lower price. So that's what we did here, and we got like the fanciest hotel that I thought I'd never stay in for the price of a cheap Airbnb, which was kind of cool. So one of the things that we did was go to the Leslieville Dollhouse. Now, this is as weird as it sounds and as it looks in this photo. So this is just a single house on a street in Leslieville. If you want the address and everything, I'll try to post it on my Facebook, but you can also go look up the article on A Canada Travel because I did write about this. This is a lady who's just covered her whole entire house in children's toys. And it's like this big, crazy art installation that doesn't seem like it should exist, but it's really cool. Now, I've shown lots of people pictures of this. Some people think it's a little creepy, and I actually think that makes it even more cool. But if you just spend some time there and look around, there's all these intricate little details that make it really neat. If you saw my photos that I posted of the big bus art sculpture at the Hamilton Art Gallery, it reminds me a little bit of that. Like, it's amazing. So I would consider it public art. Completely free. You just go park. You can take pictures of this. It looks like she has special permission from the city because, of course, like this, I know this is something neighbors would complain about. My neighbors complain about everything, and I'm sure lots of neighbors do. But she has special permission from the city. Now there is a little bit of a sad story behind how this happened, which you can look up, but it's really cool. Public art is a fantastic thing if you're on a budget, and finding weird little things like this is even better. This is actually in the Atlas Obscura, I believe, which is one of only very few locations in Canada to be featured in the Atlas Obscura. So that's kind of cool. We also looked at a lot of other public art. We were right in downtown Toronto, so we did some walking around, found cool public art to take pictures of, especially when we were on the way to get food and stuff, or, you know, between other things. And this was this really cool marble mosaic at a church, which we didn't go there for the church or the art on the church, which there was lots of, and it was very cool. We went for the labyrinths. Yes, you heard me right. The labyrinths. Toronto, and as it turns out, everywhere else is full of labyrinths. So the one that was here was like this, just a stone labyrinth in the most random of places. You wouldn't even know it was there unless you were looking for it. And so this was kind of cool. And when we found this is the Toronto Public Labyrinth, I believe. And because of that, I started looking like, is this a normal thing? Public labyrinth? Like, are there public labyrinths everywhere? So it turns out it's not even the only one in Toronto. And there's a whole entire directory of labyrinths all over North America. It might even be the world, but you can find them online. And there was another one also in High Park. So we went to that one too, because we were planning to go to High Park already and thought, hey, why not hit a second labyrinth? But that wasn't the reason we went to High Park. Now, High Park is really cool in and of itself. There's lots of nice little trails to hike on. There's some restaurants. It's an interesting place. But what a lot of people don't know about High Park, especially, like, I mean, sure, people from Toronto know this, but people from out of town don't realize that there's also a free zoo. Free, absolutely free. Like, you can just go in. Of course, they appreciate donations. And anytime you're going to these free attractions, if they have a donation box, if you can, put a little bit of money in. That's how they run their public programs. That's how they do, you know, extra enrichment things for the animals. It's great that we have free options, but if you have the means to do it, please put some money in those donation boxes. But yeah, this was just like a tiny little free zoo in the middle of Toronto. There's the Toronto Zoo also in Toronto, which is great. And that's fantastic. But if you have a large family, for example, like us, and you don't have the money to pay to go to a place like the Toronto Zoo, the zoos and aquariums do have reciprocal agreements. So if you've heard me talk about those reciprocal agreements, you should look into that. But this one, the High Park Zoo, completely free. And they do have a great range of animals. You're quite close to them, so you can really see them. And what I know I talk about those informational panels a lot. Interpretive panels are my favorite thing, but all of their information on the animals was really well presented too. And that makes me happy. So that was another part of our quirky Toronto birthday adventure for Chris. We also went to Rouge National Urban Park. So this is a national park, but right in Toronto. Until I started looking for interesting free things to do in Toronto, I didn't even know that this existed. And this is a huge, sprawling national park. It's really close to the Toronto Zoo that I just mentioned. And I've been to the Toronto Zoo dozens of times, and somehow just completely missed this. Like it's right there. And it was amazing. So you could hike here for hours. This was from a big lookout tower. There's a huge variety of plants and animals. We saw all kinds of things. You can walk right down to the river. We like walked in the river even. So this was a really cool find in Toronto that, again, like people who live there probably know that this exists. But if you're from out of town and going to Toronto, this is a great way to have some fun in Toronto completely for free. So this is a photo of why I couldn't spend a whole bunch of money on other things, because Casa Loma runs events, and they have for the past few years. I think they started with their Halloween events. So they have this huge haunted house experience at Halloween, which is great. And of course, you know, that's like my thing. So I really enjoyed that when I went. But now in the summer, they also have Imagine Dragons, which is this really interesting, like fairy tale medieval walkthrough, which was great during COVID because they're staggering it so that you're not really in contact with a bunch of other people. And it, again, is, I mean, if you've been to Casa Loma, it's a huge space, and they run you through a lot of it. You go through the grounds, through a couple of the buildings, like through the tunnels. It was really cool. It's actually not even that expensive, but it's not super cheap. But it was absolutely worth the experience. And we even took the baby, and he had a great time. We had, 3 adults and a tiny child, and everybody thought it was really cool. So I imagine that they will run this again this year. And if you didn't make it out last time, I highly recommend it. But that is what ate into our budget, which is fine because, like we've established, there are lots of fun things to do in Toronto. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about was not an experience in particular, but while you're out doing these experiences, you have to eat, right? So there's a Japanese restaurant in Toronto, Manpuku, I think it's called. But I will, again, this is in the article that I wrote, but I'll also post a link to it. This restaurant is just stellar. So it's a tiny little restaurant. And when you think Japanese, usually you think sushi. That's not what they do. They do all the other stuff. But here's what's crazy about it. It's so ridiculously cheap. Like, really, so cheap. We ate there for Chris's birthday, and that was great. We ordered way more food than we needed because it was so cheap, but we ate all that food. But then later, I've gone back with all of my kids. Like, I have 5 kids. There's 7 of us in total. That's a lot of people to feed. And we fed us all for under $50. Like, the prices are ludicrously low. I'm not sure if they just stalled out on their pricing, like somewhere in the 80s, but take advantage of it while you can. Like, their prices are so good. You could fill yourself up for $5. Like, it's crazy. So delicious, especially if you like Japanese food. So that's just like kind of a little taste of how we try to celebrate birthdays around here. Obviously not every birthday. We're not going out and having a 3-day extravaganza for every birthday that happens in our vicinity. But birthdays are, vaguely important. You should show love to people all times of the year. It doesn't really matter. But, we like our birthdays. And if you're going to celebrate a birthday, I think that experiences are just as important as stuff. So there's absolutely no reason that if you want to spend time with someone you love for their birthday, you can't plan something awesome and go out and have an adventure. And guess what? As we just saw, it doesn't even have to be an expensive adventure. It could be virtually free. Like, most of the things we talked about here today were free. Like, there was no cost at all for everything but, the hotel and Imagine Dragons, right? I mean, except for Adam's birthday. But it's really something that's attainable for everyone. There's free things to do in every single city, I promise you. Now, with that said, like I said, it's going to be a short show today because I have a birthday to get to. But remember to go follow all the other things I'm doing. Of course, Class A Paranormal. We also have our podcast last Saturday of every month, so that's coming up. So on Connect TV, go watch for the Class A Paranormal podcast on Saturday. go follow A Canada Travel. They're on Instagram, and you can go to the site and sign up for an account. That way you can follow and find all the articles I write for A Canada. Basically anything I do that I think is cool that happens in Canada, that's going to be on there. So you definitely want to go follow that. If you're into Nova Scotia, or if you plan to go to Nova Scotia anytime in the future, or just like to know what's going on in Nova Scotia, go follow Nova Scotia Buzz on Facebook. And sometimes you'll see me writing on there as well about experiences in Nova Scotia. Of course, go follow Adventure Seeker Sarah on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We have thatbeerthing.ca. So if you are interested in beer content, that's your place to go. And of course, go find Connect TV and give them a like too, because there's lots of other great content on Connect TV and more coming every week. So go give some follows and likes. And also, here's a new thing. Well, not really new. I already had a YouTube channel, but there was almost nothing on it except for these shows go there. But my main travel show is going up in the next couple of weeks, the first episode. So make sure to go follow Adventure Seeker Sarah on YouTube as well. And I'll try to post a link to that in Facebook. And that is all I want you to do. And also remember to share experiences for birthdays, because that's something that people always remember. So until next time, happy adventuring.